What's going on, guys? This is MrTeej66's movie reviews. I am Mr. Teej. I just got back from Ready Player One, the new film by Steven Spielberg. You've read the plot outlines about a virtual reality world called the Oasis, where people can engage in games. It's an alternate world basically, and the creator has died, and he's left clues around the Oasis that if someone finds them, they can basically own the Oasis. So it centers on a ragtag group of teens who want to try to find it, and there's also a big evil corporation that also wants to find it. Honestly, it's kind of like what Alfred Hitchcock called a MacGuffin. It's just, we don't know anything about what the prize... We sort of know what the prize is, but it's really not that important. It's just the excuse for the story to happen. I've been a Steven Spielberg fan my entire life. I'm 36 years old. I have so many of his movies, on Blu-ray behind me. I mean, he's just, his movies have been a part of my life forever. He's in recent years, he's started to do more adult films, like The Post and various other, Lincoln, and, well, that's fine. I'm basically still a big kid at heart, so I love it when he does these, popcorn adventure movies, because nobody does them like Steven Spielberg, and this movie is another solid addition to his filmography. It's not perfect. I'll go ahead and get the flaws out of the way quick. The movie's too long. I think they could have cut it down by about 10 or 15 minutes. Some of the characters are a little thin, especially the main two actors, Ty Sheridan, and I can't remember the female love interest's name. They're given somewhat of a backstory, but not really anything too great. There's a couple of the Asian characters which are given no backstory whatsoever. I really wish they had fleshed those characters out a little more. And the movie's littered with pop culture references, as you probably read, but there's not a lot of pop culture references to Spielberg films. I guess he felt it wasn't necessary, or he would have too big an ego. I say bullshit. I think he created so many of the most iconic films of the 80s that, if he did, I wouldn't have cared, because he was a big part of it. But anyway, those are my big issues with the movie. The movie is brilliantly directed by Spielberg, once again. In fact, I'd say he's pretty much the star of this movie. Nobody can direct an action sequence like Steven Spielberg. Fluid camera shots, CGI is absolutely first-rate. There's really never a dull moment. Oh, I forgot one other thing I forgot to mention, negative. Sometimes there's a lot of exposition dumps, and it gets a little confusing sometimes. I wasn't quite sure how we got to certain places sometimes, but it didn't take me out of the movie too much, but it was there. But anyway, back to the positive. Spielberg is in top form here. He's 71 years old, and he has the mindset of a 10-year-old kid. It's just like, the gee golly whiz syndrome. There's such joy in this film that, you couldn't even believe it. There's so many, of course, there's a lot of pop culture references, as we all well know, from the advertising campaign, what you've read online, and for the most part, they're very well integrated. I won't even dream of spoiling them, but it's a movie you definitely are going to need to buy on DVD to catch all the pop culture references, because there's a shit ton of them, and they're mostly integrated very well. There's a few that had me clapping my hands, including there's even at one point, the characters go inside, let's just say, a very, very famous horror film. That's all I'm going to say. And it is delightful. The set construction to recreate scenes from this movie, spot on. I have no idea how they did it. They must have went through that film a frame at a time. The acting was solid all around. Spielberg, as always, gets good at performances from his actors. He always does. You can tell he likes actors, because everyone in this movie does it, excellent to even solid job. Ben Mickelson, I believe his name is. He plays the corporate villain, and he is just having a ball. I love the fact that he's just a scumbag, slimeball, mustache-twirling villain. I mean, I like villains that, have depth to them, or, they don't know they're being a villain, but sometimes it's just fun to have a good old-fashioned mustache twirler, and in this case, it works very well. The CGI is fantastic. Spot on. I'm trying to think what else I want to say. All in all, this movie is a blast. I mean, I can't say anything more. I clapped, I cheered, I had a good time. I wish more filmmakers had Steven Spielberg's, just that awe, that sense of wonder at so many great things. There's a lot of video game references in there too. In fact, the movie is basically, it may be the best video game movie I've ever seen, and it's not based on a video game. I mean, I don't play video games that much anymore. I sort of lost interest, but I'm more of an old school gamer that played, Mario Brothers, or not Dungeons and Dragons, Double Dragon, stuff like that. And this movie is littered with references to that stuff. There's a lot of video game characters I did recognize. Overall, I would give this movie probably an 8.4. I thought it was a solidly fun entertainment. Definitely worth seeing in the theaters. Even if you don't get some of the pop culture references, it's still a blast. But I got a bunch of them. It's a movie I'm definitely going to be buying on DVD so I can freeze frame and start really looking in the frame. The two films that kind of reminded me the most of were Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which he produced. War of the Worlds, in that the script is, okay, it's not the greatest, and characters are a little flat, but Steven Spielberg just takes us on such a wild, fun, imaginative ride that, I don't care about some of the narrative shortcomings. And Roger Rabbit, and the fact that it's, spot the famous, pop culture reference right there, it reminded me of that movie again, also so much. So overall, this movie is a fun, exciting time. You definitely should go check it out. 8.4 out of 4. I have 4. I have 10. This is MrTeej66, and I will see you next time.